What's going on, and welcome into Pels and Whistles, presented by Bet Online right here on the Believe Network. I'm Daniel Salerson alongside Rel Myers, and if you're listening to this show, that means you survived what happened last night inside the Smoothie King Center. My goodness, after a tough loss to the Sacramento Kings, didn't look good against the Memphis Grizzlies for most of the game, down 19 at one point, and then up 6 with about 5 seconds to go, 11 seconds to go. Either way, Pelicans blow that, head to overtime, and then steamroll the Grizzlies in the final 5 minutes to win that ball game, clinch a play-in spot, but still plenty to play for in the final 2 games. Rel, I feel like the Pelicans should have given away, for the first 5,000 fans in attendance, a cardiologist just to have by your side to help you through that. I texted you as soon as that overtime or that lead was blown, getting to
Yeah.
overtime, and I can't really say what your response was back. It was pretty funny. But man, oh man, what the heck happened? What did you witness last night there?
I was so stressed. I even tweeted some things that I can't repeat on here. I mean, I'm sure I could, but I just don't want to. And people, people point these things out when I start dropping words that are short, that are expletive. But um I'm human, and humans get stressed sometimes. And that was a stupid game. Like, there was no reason that we ever should have gone into overtime to begin with. But I mean, this is what happens when you're dealing with a team that likes to, get down by 20 some odd points, and then all of a sudden they come back and they give you that hope. But I mean, it was fun in the end, but man, I don't think I've ever seen a finish that crazy. We were up by 6 with like 10 seconds left, I think, and Herb falling on that 3, which I thought was kind of bogus anyway. I thought that Dylan Brooks kicked out, or put his arm out so he
Yeah.
made sure that Herb caught him, but Scott Foster and company fell for it. But whew, man,
You don't need to
I
close him out though that hard in that situation. Just let him
no,
go. Let him shoot the
no.
three.
And I told Sean that, because Sean was with me at the game last night. I said, just let him go. Don't do anything stupid. Just let him go. And you're like crashing into this guy up by 6. You're gonna
Yeah.
give him a 4-point play. So yeah, there was some really boneheaded stuff going on, but I mean, they made a lot of right plays too to get themselves in that position to even be up by 6 with 10 seconds left. So yeah, they owe us a cardiologist. They probably owe us a couple of beers. They probably owe me a couple more hours of sleep. Had we lost, I would have been straight to bed. But I
Yeah.
stayed up till 2, also celebrating the Lakers' loss, even though technically, if they won, it would have helped us out. But anyhow,
Yeah, LeBron blaming the back-to-back, which woe is me. I
uh,
forgot that their team was the only one that played a back-to-back, but we can get to
ever.
that later on in the show. But some history that the Pelicans avoided thanks to Andrew Lopez and ESPN Stats and Info. Entering last night's game, teams were 0 and 17,930 when trailing by 6 or more inside the final 5 seconds of a game in the fourth quarter and overtime over the last 20 seasons. Memphis nearly became the first. And another thing that about that last 10 seconds, so Dylan Brooks intentionally missing the free throw, which at the time I didn't
Yeah,
think he needed to,
I didn't think so.
because if he made that shot and they end up getting the ball back, they only needed a 2
Yeah,
instead of a 3. And then, I mean, they ended up getting and forcing overtime anyways. But I
yeah.
mean, between the offensive foul from Brandon Ingram, Larry Nance fouling Jaren Jackson Jr.,
Oh,
I mean, the Pelicans did every single thing they could to give that one away. And you mentioned the
yeah.
lead up before that, and we have to give credit for the Pelicans for how they came back. Gotta give credit to 2 people. Well, lots of people. Herb Jones, of course, had a fantastic night,
Mm-hmm.
especially from beyond the arc. But Brandon Ingram and his 13 assists, I mean, that was some of the best passing we've seen from BI in his career. And
Yeah.
then Trey Murphy with the timely threes, what he was able to
Yes.
do to get this team back into it. Those 3 guys, I mean, there's a lot of guys that contributed, but those 3
Mm-hmm.
were huge in the win. And I think there was another history that was made as the Pelicans became just the second team in NBA history to have 3 players with 30 or more points and connect on 5 or more threes. The
Mm-hmm.
first team actually did it on the same night. It was the Knicks did it a couple hours before, or finished the game an hour earlier. They had 3 guys with 30 or more points and 5 or more threes. That never happened in NBA history, and 2
Oh my
happened
gosh.
on the same night. And the
Did Bet
Pelicans were
Online
one of
know
those
this was gonna
teams.
happen? Like, did Bet Online know? Was there an option?
Do you know how much money you could have made on Bet Online if that was the case, as they remain your number one source for all sports, including the NBA? Bet Online is your NBA headquarters. Head to the website, use the mobile device to sign up and receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your bonus. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. Hope you can transition now from college basketball, which they were your college basketball headquarters, now transitioning to the NBA. Rel, how'd you do? I mean, I had the Pelicans in a 3-team parlay, and I was like, oh boy, I'm about to lose this thing based on the Pelicans. And then down the stretch, I was like, whew, able to pull it off. But I was able to successfully win that one.
I'd say I did great. I lost $5.40, and it was a win for me. And usually you, as well as everyone else who listens, they know it's usually $1 for me. But I wanted that game real bad. And also, if the Grizzlies had won, I just would have won like $15 back or something like that. But yeah, I bet the Grizzlies money line when I want to say the line was like 4.5 or something like that. Or the spread was 4.5. So I said, yeah, do it. Do it. Here, take the $5.40. Take it. I don't need it. I just need a win. So yeah. And I also bet $1 on the Lakers to win, and they did not. So I think my trick worked this time.
Yeah, I think for the tiebreaker purposes, though, like you mentioned, I think the Pelicans needed the Lakers to actually win, because you do hold the tiebreaker over the Clippers and not the Lakers.
Yeah.
And so, but you also need a 3-team tie, because again, according to Jim Eichenhofer, and again, I get so confused now, if those 3 teams end up in a 3-way tie, the Pelicans do earn the tiebreaker over those 2. So where the Pelicans sit right now is actually, I got to refresh here because my standings did not update. So let's do that real quick. Here we go. Ready to roll. So in 5th are the Los Angeles Clippers after their big win, 42-38. Same goes for the Golden State Warriors. They're in 6th with the same record. In 7th are those Los Angeles Lakers at 41-39, the same record as the Pelicans. In 8th, Minnesota, 1 game back of New Orleans. In 9th, remember, these 2 teams will play in Minnesota in the final game of the regular season. But the Minnesota Timberwolves are on a second night of a back-to-back. They play in San Antonio the night before, which is a horrible back-to-back for Minnesota to fly all the way down to Texas and come all the way back. But sorry, I'm not sorry, because that's how it works sometimes, especially with the Pelicans. It's so hard for them in the back-to-backs. They have some of the worst back-to-backs too, just because of where they are located. The Thunder in 10th right now over their tiebreaker over Dallas. Dallas gets a big win over Sacramento. They're all 38-42. So the good news is, I believe the Pelicans can't. Yes, Pelicans can't go as they can't drop to 10. They will be 9th or better, because Oklahoma City has 42 losses. But now the key is, I mean, you're still 1 game away from being 5th. That's the crazy thing, with 2 games to go. And you welcome in the New York Knicks on Friday, and then again Minnesota on Sunday. So that's what's crazy is, yeah, you wanted that Sacramento game, which overall, one, you ran into a really good Sacramento team that was trying to clinch the division for the first time in 85 years, it seemed like. And then, yeah, the Grizzlies, you were hoping you could take care of business because they did not have John Morant. They did not have Luke Kennard, Xavier Tillman, which is not really a big factor, but still someone that is a contributor. And it looked like for 3 quarters, it was not going to be the case. But to claw your way back and get yourself that win and split that back-to-back, that's a tough back-to-back. You're facing the 2 seed and the 3 seed on back-to-back nights. I know it's at home. That's no joke. And the props for the Pelicans to get back in there and get that win last night.
It was less than ideal. And I was telling that to Sean too. It's like we got the 3rd seed and then we got the 2nd seed. Like, what are the odds of that being who we're playing? Because at the beginning of the season, we didn't know that Sacramento was going to be where they were. But what are the odds of that being who we're playing at the end of the season? And we're, tied in the standings with the Lakers at the end of the night. And, we're a game out of 5th. And especially just, I don't know, this season's just been so weird when you consider the fact that we were in 1st in December and then we dropped all the way to like 12th at some point. And now we're sitting at 8th and could be at 5th. And there's still no telling what's going to happen in these last couple of days. But I feel like I'm not going to sleep until we clinch something, like I'm going to be up. I'm going to be watching these late West Coast games. Because I need to see what happens. I don't want to go to sleep and wake up and find out the news. Like, I'd rather just see these games finish, see where the Pelicans are at when the standings were fresh. And then, that'll determine how much sleep I get. But it's going to be a photo finish.
Yeah, let's look at the schedule for the teams that the Pelicans are chasing because there are some different things to keep an eye on. And unfortunately, for some of these schedules, it's pretty easy for some of these teams that are ahead. As far as the Clippers are concerned, of course, they get the Portland Trailblazers on Saturday. So you can probably count that as a win. Then
Yeah.
they face the Suns on Sunday. So they have a back to back to end. You don't really know what the Suns are going to do, but they pretty much they can't get to third and they are well, they can't drop to 5 because they
Mm,
have well, I don't know the tiebreaker between Phoenix and LA, but they technically, I guess, if they lost all 3 of their last 3 games, they maybe could.
wow.
But by that time, they could have clinched. So the Clippers might be in good shape where they keep their 44 and 38 record.
Hmm.
Golden State's last 2 games, they have the Kings. Kings have pretty much locked up 3, and then they have Portland. So that's a tough thing about the end of the season with these last 2 games for some of these teams is you just don't know which teams are going to play and which ones are not because I think some teams even if they already have their seating locked up, I think Sunday is really important to keep your guys fresh and
Hmm.
playing at least a little bit. That way, there's no rust, especially if they have locked up seating. You don't want to sit out a whole week with not playing any games.
Hmm.
So that's what's going to be telling the Lakers. And with the Suns, again, I think the Suns will still need that one at the moment. And then they host the Jazz, which they will not need that one. So unfortunately, I think for the Pelicans, it seems like one, if they want to stay in 8, need to win obviously both those 2 games, but it's going to be tough
Hmm.
for them to move up, I think, to either 7, 6, or 5 unless one team decides to either not play their players or just have a really bad night because it seems like 5,
Yeah.
6, and 7 Clippers, Warriors, and Lakers just seems like with their schedule could easily win their last 2 games.
Yeah, I thought that it was kind of bogus that the Lakers' last 3 games end up being at home because I mean they played the Clippers last night, but they share an arena.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, how convenient is that? Especially just considering the way that their season's turned around and ever since the sleepless nights debacle, it's like last place I want to be in an elimination game is in Crypto Arena, where the Lakers have this insane free throw differential. So the silver lining there though is if they're in seventh and we're in eighth and we have to play them in the play in, at least we have one more chance
Yeah.
to beat someone else after the referees beat us over the head with Laker free throws. So
Right. And that would be most likely hosting Minnesota or Oklahoma City if they are unable to
hmm
pull off a win against LA. Um,
hmm
but that also depends on whether number one will be in uniform for your New Orleans
yeah.
Pelicans, which we are recording this before the news is coming out today, which there is
hmm
expected to be some news regarding Zion later on this afternoon. Again, whenever you're taking this in, the news could already be shared. So obviously we
hmm
cannot comment on what it is.
I have a
But
prediction.
do you have a prediction?
Yeah, I have. My prediction is it's not what you think. The prediction is the news is going to break between specifically 12:30 and 4:30 because I have somewhere to be in that specific time, and that's when the news is going to break. There's a company crawfish bowl slash cabbage ball game, and I'm going to be doing that. And then all of a sudden, the cabbage ball is going to knock me over the head because I'm going to be in the outfield checking Woj bombs and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's when it's gonna drop because that's just how these things work. Now,
Yeah,
what
well,
is it gonna say?
that's
I
I
don't
thought you were
know.
gonna have an idea of what it was gonna say. I
I
was like,
don't
all
know.
right, what's Rel's theory here?
I saw something earlier that just seemed really plausible. That they were gonna say, "Oh, we'll reevaluate him in a week instead of 2 weeks." They said 1 week, and I was like, I could actually see that happening. Um, and then, we could also see them say he's immediately available. Someone brought up a good point that Willie said a few weeks ago that it's not completely unlikely that he could be readily available and not have to practice, which I can't see that happening. We always want a guy to get out there and get some practice before they get back out there. Um, Rumors are swirling about him maybe playing tomorrow, which I originally thought that he might be able to play on Friday, but I also thought that we would get the news yesterday and
Yeah,
not be waiting for it today. So I don't really know what to expect. There's just so much speculation involving him not being at the game on Tuesday and him. Um, well, he was there last night. Yeah, he wasn't there Tuesday, but he was there on Wednesday. They're talking about his body language, and some people are saying, "Oh, he looks like he got a warm welcome when he came out. He looks like he's going to get good news. And then other people are like, oh, he looks sad and frustrated. It's going to be bad news. And that's why they're delaying it. And it's just like, I don't know what to believe. I know what to hope for, but what do I believe?
Was he actually not in the arena Tuesday or just not on the bench? Like he could have been receiving
Uh
treatment during the game.
yeah, he wasn't on the bench Tuesday. And so of course that raised some eyebrows because people are
Yeah.
always looking for him to be over there. Especially on the night where if we had won, we could have clinched, playing or better for sure. So you really want to see him in the building, supporting the guys. But I definitely don't think it's a situation like last season where it's this over speculation about how he's not around and he's in Portland and he's detached and all of this stuff. I don't think we're going to be dealing with a situation like that. So that's good. But yeah, I don't know what to expect.
I just think none of us have a clue, and everyone's
Mm-mm.
trying to act like they do have a clue, and so
Mhm.
everyone's going to give their theories on what they think, and that's not calling you out. It's more of just everyone
Mhm.
saying, "Oh, well, it could be a week, or it could be this. He could be playing
Yeah,
tomorrow."
it could be
All
anything.
that's on the table. That's definitely
Yep.
for sure. But the key is if they do want him to practice a little more, they only have one more practice left of the regular season. That is Saturday.
Right.
They're not practicing today because of the back to back. They will
Mhm.
have a shoot around tomorrow, but that's not really a practice for
Mhm.
Zion. They don't go hard. It's more of shooting and going over game plan. They will this practice Saturday in Minnesota, or they'll practice and fly to Minnesota. And then Sunday is a day game, so there would not even be a shoot around for him
Yeah.
before that game. So there are a lot of factors to
Mhm.
play in. But when we stopped recording on Monday, we heard that he did 3-on-3 was the most he's done at
Yeah.
practice, correct?
Mhm.
So obviously he's still missing some steps as far as getting the 5-on-5. But like you mentioned, if they think he's ready to go, it doesn't need the 5-on-5, then go ahead and maybe he's ready to go. But I just find it hard with how cautious they've been to think
Mhm.
that they would skip steps and
Yeah.
say, we need him. Oh, we can just throw him in there. Especially if they've clinched a play in.
Mhm.
I just think my prediction, again, no knowledge whatsoever, that they'll have him ready for the play in. I think we'll give it till, because if they play 7 or 8, the 7-8 game, that's on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you give them a chance to practice on Monday as well, Saturday and Monday, since you've already at least clinched 9.
Mhm.
Or sorry, you've at least clinched 9. You're in 8th
Yeah.
right now. You get him ready, because then think about it. If you get in as the 8th seed and you have a healthy Zion against Denver, no one's afraid to play Denver right now. You'll ask
Mm-mm.
anyone around. That
Nobody.
is a 1 seed right now that is not really looking like a 1 seed, and everyone's like, all right, we'll take on Denver. I'm not saying that the Pelicans are going to go in there and sweep the Denver Nuggets in a 1A matchup, but
Mhm.
it could be the same as last year for the Pelicans take them to 6, or it could be a really interesting series between the two. So my guess is, because he has not done a full 5-on-5 practice, you let him continue to sit these last 2 games. No need to risk it. I did want him, originally we talked about, and I still agree with this premise, that I
Mhm.
would have liked him to play in the last 2 games, at least a little bit,
For
to get
sure.
his feet
Yeah.
wet. But I also don't know the
Absolutely.
circumstances of how he actually is right now, obviously. So
Mhm.
I don't want to sit here and pretend like I know everything and he's not ready to go, and then he gets thrown out there and re-injures himself, and then you don't have him at all for the
Yeah.
rest of this season. So um by just knowing how they have been, not only with Zion but with BI, and letting him be as cautious as he was with his turf toe and his other injuries, I just think if you're in this situation for the Pelicans, knowing that you do still have stuff to play for, knowing that you're capable, I think, of beating the Knicks, obviously without Zion. They don't have Julius Randle. Very
Right.
winnable game. I think the Knicks have locked up that 5 seed, and will
Yeah.
face the Cavaliers in the 4 or 5. And then on Sunday you face Minnesota, which again will be a big game. Um, they either maybe play them on Sunday if they really, really, really need them to. But I think you wait, give them another practice on Monday,
Mhm.
and then let him play the Lakers on Tuesday if it gets to the point where you are in that 7-8 and heading to crypto.com arena. That's just my theory, guess, whatever you want to call it.
I really like to see Zion play against Rudy Gobert. I would love for him to be able to play in that game and make Rudy look like a terrible defensive player. I never believed he was a defensive player of the year caliber guy, and he's won it like twice, right? I never saw the hype, and like Aunt Edwards said, he doesn't put any fear in my heart. I'm gonna quote that every single day of life because it's true. He's just not intimidating. Yeah, he's got like a presence due to his size, but yeah, just not afraid of that guy. So yeah, I would love for him to be able to play that game, but I would understand given his injury history and their history of dealing with his injuries. I completely understand their logic on just skipping all that and letting him wait until the play-in since we've clinched something. But um, it's also risky if you get in that 9-10 spot because if you lose, well, not 10, but if we end up at 9 and we lose that game, then you're just out. So I think yeah, I get it. I can see both sides of it. From the fan perspective, we're like, no, just let him play. And if he dies, he dies. It's like if he get hurt, he's got the whole offseason to get better, But at the same time, these guys aren't machines. They're humans. And hamstring injuries really suck.
Yeah. And again, we don't know. All we've heard is he's progressed. He's done 3-on-3. Like, you really don't know how
Yeah.
comfortable he is, how comfortable they feel with him, what his conditioning is like. There's so many factors that obviously we don't get the information for. So it's hard for us to even go, well, he should be doing this, or,
Hmm.
they better be doing this. Like, leave it to the professionals that do this every day. And all we can do is sit and wait. But it seems like there will be an update today from what we've gathered between everyone reporting on it. So be on the lookout for that. Again, there's no media availability today because there's no practice. So I'm guessing it's just going to be a news release at some point
Hmm.
on Pelicans.com or on Twitter at Pelicans NBA. And again, it'll probably be when Rel's in the outfield of her cabbage ball tournament, stuffing her face with some crawfish, and she's going to go holy and figure
Yeah.
out what just happened, and we'll see where it goes. But
I should I think I'm gonna be mic'd up during this cabbage ball game. So maybe we'll get a live reaction.
dude, it's
I
like
just want to be mic'd up at all times for everything. It's so much fun.
it's like ESPN's doing a baseball. They're having a mic'd up player and they're doing conversation with them during the game, which is pretty cool. So we need
Yeah.
Rel mic'd up for cabbage ball just in time for the news release, just so we can get our instant reaction. I think you
Need
should do
it.
that.
I think I will. I'll be out there and I'll get the update on my watch and I'll let the people know it's going down.
Maybe play Who's
Yelling
That
at home.
Bird with someone in the outfield. Test them.
Man, someone asked me about who's that bird last night, and I got a new phone recently, and I was like, oh, I don't actually have any Pelicans players' pictures on this phone, and my wife's like, I think as your free creative director, you need to get on top of that.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, my bad, my bad. It's just people got nervous about it, and so that's when I was like, you know what, forget it. I'm gonna branch out. I've been catching a little bit of heat from the Kings fans for my latest video, which has been making the rounds. A lot of people thought it was fun, but then some people were starting to say, "Oh, this is so fake. These videos are so fake." And I was like, "Look, man, it's not my fault that a lot of fans are casuals. I'm just exposing
Yeah.
them as casuals. Like the guy. I showed him a picture of Garrett Temple, and he says it's Kevin Herter. Like obviously he knows it's not Kevin Herter. He's just saying
Yeah.
stuff just to get a laugh. So I can't control that, and I can't
Right.
control it because it's real.
Yeah.
So I was like, listen, man, as an artist, I am offended that you would say that my work is not real. So yeah, that's what I spent the time doing last night at 1 a.m. defending my TikTok videos.
You know what's easy is probably with how many teams Garrett Temple has played, you can play it against any team inside the Smoothie
Yes.
King. So whenever any team comes in, be like, I'll just put Garrett Temple in
Yes.
there because he
He's
has
played
played
for
on.
11 teams, man. And he played for Memphis once upon a time. But for the Memphis folks last night, I left him out of there. I was like, you know what? We're going to give this a rest. Because somebody actually named him recently. And I think that was maybe the second time anyone's
Do you
ever
include?
accurately named.
Did you include Vancouver Grizzlies in that?
No, I don't go that far back anymore because there's a lot of people I run into. They're just, you can't really count on people to be fans of a team for 20 years anymore. So I go back maybe 2016, 2017 or so. And
Get some
maybe as
Mike
recent
Miller.
as like, I didn't have any Mike Miller in there. Um, and who else? I want to say,
I know if you're
oh,
gonna
it
have
was for
like
the second.
Brian Big Country Reeves, or if you're gonna have Sharif Abdul Rahim, or
No, too far back.
I,
And most of the Memphis fans, dude, they're like 12. It was nuts. It was just kids. like droves and droves of children, and
John
they're
Morant
gritty
fans.
and yes, they're gritty and all over the place. You get out of my blender with this nonsense.
Yeah.
So
There
I'm
should
like,
be a
dude, I
note.
can't put these adolescents on my TikTok channel. I can't do this. I need to find an adult. So
Yeah. I'm sure there are rules against that anyways that you
yeah,
want to stay
I don't
away
want to
from.
do
But
that. I saw a dude in a Zach Randolph jersey. He looked to be late 30s, early 40s, something like that. I said, okay, I'm gonna go talk to this guy. But he didn't want to film, and I was like, all right, do you want me to show you who I got? Just so just so you can see for fun.
yeah.
You can just he got them all wrong. He didn't know anybody. And I'm like, so you have a Zach Randolph jersey and you don't know anyone who's played, since he retired?
Did he at least
And
know who Zach Randolph was? Like, if you show him pictures of Zach Randolph, was he
I
like,
didn't
hey, that's
give
Zach
him
Randolph?
I didn't give him a Zach Randolph picture. But I mean, I had guys like Yuta Watanabe, which I had no idea he ever played for the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
But I had Chandler Parsons. If you are wearing a Grizzlies jersey and you don't know who Chandler Parsons is, I'm confused. I don't know what's going on. So he didn't know Solomon Hill. And
Oh.
I know Solomon wasn't there for like 4 years, but I just feel like you should know Solomon Hill just based on pure frustration of his play. But what do I know?
I'll be curious to see what happens with a Knicks fan and who you put in
Yeah.
there.
I feel like they're more likely to be long-standing fans,
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Make it
I'll
hard
put
for them. No Patrick Ewing and John Starks or anything
nope,
like
that's
that.
way too far back. Way too far back. I'm gonna go 2016 or newer.
2016 or newer.
Yeah, so
There's
it's
some
always
who's among Knicks players from that. I mean, because they've
yeah.
not been very good.
Yeah. So I definitely try to sneak in between 6 years ago and maybe like 3 years ago. So we'll see what happens with that. I'll either download some pics today or tomorrow, but I'll have it ready and hopefully I get some good stuff out of those fans.
All right. We'll be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for Rel tomorrow. Pelicans and Knicks, final home game of the regular season. Then they bounce on the road for one more against Minnesota. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the scoreboard watching, as Rel and I
Mm-hmm.
will certainly be doing. And by the time we get to you on Monday, we will know where the Pelicans team will be heading, whether it's on the road, whether it's hosting, whether it's they're not playing at all on Tuesday because they made it as a 5 or 6 seed and they have a nice week off. But nonetheless, we'll be here on Monday to preview the playoffs, preview the play-in, and get you ready for what should be a nerve-wracking, exciting, fun, stressful month of basketball. Hopefully it's a month of basketball for your New Orleans Pelicans. Again, be on the lookout for Pelicans.com at Pelicans NBA for a Zion Williamson update. Again, if you're listening to this after the update, then obviously you've already been on the lookout. And we'll
Yes.
react to the news, of course, on Monday. Be a little late for that. But again, you can always find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Rate, subscribe, tell our bosses how much you love us, and maybe they'll give us a raise. Hope everyone
Please.
has a great Easter weekend. Be safe. Enjoy the basketball. And until Monday, for Rel Myers, I'm Daniel Salerson. Thanks for listening to Pels and Whistles, presented by Bet Online right here on the Believe Network.